Let's talk bike lights. In fact, let's talk really bright bike lights. I'm talking about the Magicshine 8000S Galaxy version 2. And version 2 means it comes with a remote. And this is a remote that has some really cool features and functions. I'll show you how it works coming up here in a few minutes. So if you haven't figured it out, 8000 means this light is 8000 lumens. That's right, 8000 lumens. This could be a light that's brighter than your typical needs, but you can definitely make it pretty dim. I'm going to show you all the features of it in all the different modes. So this is a light, as you can see, it's got an external battery. Now I do sometimes like a light that's self-contained that I can just put on my handlebars. In other words, the battery and the light head are all built into one. However, if you want this much brightness with really good burn time, then an external battery is the way to go. So you can see that it comes with straps. So you can mount this thing on your top tube. You can mount it on your seat post, which is a really good option for mountain biking. I mainly use this light for my gravel bike simply because my trails are a state park that don't allow night riding. We won't get on that subject because it's frustrating. They do allow night rides every once in a while if you go through a special group ride, but on a regular basis, I'm using this light on my gravel bike. So the straps that come with this light are really durable. They're Velcro. They've got some grip. And when I mount this thing on my top tube, it does not budge at all. It is really secure. It does have some rubber underneath the battery, so you're not going to scratch your bike. But most importantly, it's going to stay really secure. It's going to stay in place. So the cable is fairly long, which again allows you to mount it on your seat post. And like I said earlier, that's probably my favorite mounting option for a mountain bike. So what you would do is just mount it on the back of the seat post, wrap the cable a couple times around the top tube, and then of course put the light head on the handlebars. Now I'm going to tell you one of my favorite features of this light. This is coming from someone who's fairly entrenched in the Garmin ecosystem, is it uses the Garmin quarter turn mounts. Now it does come with a mounting bracket. This is not the one that it comes with, but this is one that you should probably order if you use a Garmin, and especially if you like putting a GoPro on your mount sometimes. So you put the light head inside and then you just twist it and you're good to go. So you can take this thing on and off a bike in like a minute or less. You can order this from Magicshine. This is called the TTA mount. And this is one that you can put your Garmin on the top. So let me grab my Garmin here, show you. And then you can put your light head underneath. And so, you could basically, just keep this on your bike for the daytime riding. And then when you want to ride at night, whether it's mountain, gravel, whatever, road bike, you can put your light on underneath. Now, the other really cool thing about this, and what I use it for a lot, is you've got a GoPro mount. There we go. So you pull the quarter turn mount off, and then you've got a GoPro mount. Now what I do is, because I oftentimes gravel ride with a Garmin and the light and a GoPro, I actually have two mounts. So I use my standard Garmin mount, and then I'll use a mount like this where I can mount a GoPro. So I've got the light up top, the GoPro underneath, and so you've got a lot of options. So let me show you how this light functions, and I'll start by showing you how it functions without the remote. So it has a button on the top, and again, these lights are made really well. Like, this is a high-end light. This is a light that retails for about $420. Now, there is a discount code that they gave me. I'll drop it in the description below, and that will give you 15% off this light. And I've used a lot of lights over the years, and this one has become my favorite, not just because of how bright it is, but because of the features. Like I said, that Garmin quarter turn mount feature is great, but I also like the durability of this light. So I'm not going to shine this directly at my camera because I'd probably burn the sensor out. It's got 5 bulbs, as you can see. So these 2 bulbs on the bottom are going to be your spot. The top 3 are going to be your floodlight, and then you can have where you have all 5 lights. And within each of the modes, so spot, flood, and hybrid, you've got 4 different brightness settings: 10% brightness, 25%, 50%, and then 100%. So to power it on, you're just going to hold down that button for about 2 seconds. Again, I'm not going to show this at the camera, so I've got all 5 on. Let me go down to just one of them. So what you do is you double click the button at the top, and that'll take it down to the spotlight, so the bottom two bulbs. And then all you do to go to the next brightness settings is you just tap the button. So that's going to be your 50%, actually 25%. Now we're at 50%, and then we're at 100% brightness. Again, I'm not going to show you the camera because this thing it's super bright. I'll tell you the run times coming up here in a minute. Then if I want to go to the floodlight, I would double tap the button again at the top. Now, because I was at 100% brightness, it's going to stay at 100%. But if I wanted to tap it again, it's going to go to a blinking light. So you can not only use this at night, but you can also use it during the day for safety. Tap it again, you'll be at 10% brightness, 25, 50, and then 100% brightness. So like I said, if you're at 100% brightness and you go to the next mode, it'll stay at 100%. So let's go down to 10% brightness. Now I'm going to go to the hybrid mode, which is all 5 bulbs. So again, double tap the top button. Got all 5 bulbs on. Now we'll go outside here in a minute and I'm going to do a test where I show you the brightness in my yard and you can see kind of how bright it gets. Now I'll show you how the remote works, and this is another thing that makes this light one of my favorite lights that I've ever used because the remote is very functional. So it's got 2 buttons. Either one, if you hold them down for a couple seconds, it will turn the light on or turn it off. So I'm going to hold down the rectangle button. I'm going to show you how the rectangle button works. If I press it one time, it will go to all 5 lights max brightness. So touch it one time. And so that's great like for mountain biking. So if you're in a mode or you're on a gravel ride or whatever, and all of a sudden you need maximum brightness, you just tap the rectangle button and this thing goes to 8,000 lumens. Tap it again and it'll go back to the mode that you were in before you hit the rectangle. Now, if you double tap the rectangle, it will cycle between the modes, so spot, flood, and hybrid. So right now we're in spot. I double tap the rectangle, we go to flood, and then double tap it again, and it goes to the hybrid with all 5 lights on. And then the circle on the remote will cycle between the brightnesses. So I keep tapping it one time, and it'll go, to 25% brightness, 50, and then 100, and then back down. Now, if you double tap the circle, and you'll notice, by the way, when I did that, it didn't go to the flash like if you use the button on the top. To go to flash, you double tap the circle, and it'll go into the flash mode. Double tap it again, and it'll go back to the mode that you were in before. So again, the remote is very functional. So, you just put this on your handlebars, and it's especially useful for mountain biking. So you've got this thing right next to your grip. Just tap it with your thumb, and all the features that I showed come in real handy when you're mountain biking. First, I'll show you the spotlight, and this is 10% brightness. This may not even show up in the camera. So again, this is the spot, so the 2 bulbs on the bottom. That's going to be 25% brightness. That's 50% brightness, and then the highest spot is going to be 100% brightness right there. Now I'm going to switch over to the flood. So I'm going to go down. So if I click the button one time, it'll flash, and then back down to the lowest setting. I'll double click the button on the top of the light, and we'll go to the flood pattern. So that's 10%, that's 25%, that's 50%, and that's 100% brightness of the flood. So the 3 bulbs at the top. Now we're going to illuminate all 5 bulbs. So I'm going to go back down to the lowest setting. Okay, now I'll switch over to all 5, double tap the button. That's 10%. That's 25%. That is 50% brightness. And then 8,000 lumens. That is 100% brightness of all 5 bulbs. So the entire light. Now, I don't know how this is going to show up on the camera, but this is extremely bright. I'll show you a few more features on the light. So when you turn the light on, the top button is green if you have between 21 and 100% charge. Once you get between 6 and 20% charge, that light will turn red. And then when you're less than 5%, in other words, you're about to run out of battery, it'll blink red. So this battery charges with a USB-C, which I'm so glad because every single device that I've owned pretty much is USB-C, except Garmin. Garmin, please change it to USB-C. But it's got a little button inside that you can tap, and it will give you an indicator. So you see there's 3 LED lights that come on. That's just a quick way that you can check your battery. So that's full charge, obviously, and then 2 LED lights would be a half charge, and then 1 would be, I guess, around 25% charge. I'll tell you the run times of the light. I mean, you can look them up on Magicshine's website, but just so you can have it all in one handy dandy video. Spot at 100% will be 4-hour burn time. And then at 10%, you've got 32 hours of burn time. So you've got a ton of burn time on this thing. If you go to the flood pattern, you've got 2 hours and 10 minutes at 100% brightness. And then you can get up to 22 hours in the flood pattern with 10% brightness. And then if you're running all 5 lights, so in other words, you're at 8,000 lumens, you can run the light for an hour and a half. So that's a really good burn time for that amount of lumens. And by the way, these are LED bulbs, if you haven't figured that out. Most lights today are LED, but I just want to mention that. And then lastly, I'll talk about how it works, which is the most important thing, right? This is the first light that I've used on a mountain bike where I don't feel like I have to have a light also on my helmet to kind of fill in the sides. So in other words, like when you're cornering, the bike light is maybe shining one direction and you're getting ready to go another direction. I like a helmet light, but this one is so bright that when I have the bike light on full brightness on the flood or all 5, it fills out the trail so well that I don't feel like I have to have a light on top of my helmet. On a gravel road, I mean, obviously this thing is great. I read one review where this thing is, I think they said 3 times brighter than a car light. So you got to be careful. I mean, really, like if you're using this thing on a road, you don't want to run it at full brightness, right? Because you could blind drivers coming the other way. So you do need to be careful about that. Also, when I'm on my group gravel rides, I don't run this thing at full brightness. You would just overpower the guy in front of you and it actually creates a shadow. So he has trouble seeing, even though he may have a bright light with 8,000 lumens. This thing behind someone would create that shadow. So bottom line is the pattern, the flood and all 5 fills out the trail or fills out the road really well. I've used some bike lights where it's more of a spot pattern, which is okay, but this thing just fills everything out. I mean, you probably saw that in the test that I was doing in my yard. So if you can't tell, I really like this bike light. The features, the brightness, the durability make this, like I said earlier, the best bike light that I've ever used. So check it out. Let me know in the comments below if you've used this light or other ones from Magicshine. Let me know your experience long-term. To me, a long-term review is like a year. So maybe I'll follow this up in a year from now and tell you how this thing has held up durability-wise. And like I said, this is the version 2. So if you want the remote, make sure you get the version 2. All right, that's it for the Magicshine 8000S Galaxy bike light. Questions or comments, drop those below. Thanks for watching.